The wow word today is meekness. In Matthew chapter 5 verse 5, Jesus said, "Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth." In a paraphrased translation it says, "You are blessed when you are content with just who you are, no more, no less." That's the moment you find yourselves proud owners of everything that cannot be bought. It must be said right from the beginning that meekness is not weakness. It takes a strong character to deliberately set aside their rights. For example, Moses in the Old Testament was the meekest man in all the earth, and Moses was not a weak-willed character. Meekness is accepting God's dealing with us as good without dispute or resistance. Meekness is effectively trusting God to be God. The Christian disciple is to be a person who claims no rights of their own, and who is willing to yield all possessions and personal rights to God. The Christian disciple sees possessions as being loaned to them by God for his work and for his glory. We see this in the example of Jesus and also in the early church. And as Jesus commanded in Luke chapter 9 verse 23, it's also a necessary part of carrying our own cross. But why should you as a Christian disciple give up your rights? You do it because you now belong to God through your own choice. Remember that you, as a Christian disciple, a follower of Jesus Christ, you are not your own, that you were bought at a price. Contradictory to this is the way of the world, which insists every person has rights and that you have a right to use your rights. What do you as a Christian disciple gain by handing your rights to God? Amongst other things, you gain inner satisfaction and peace and an increased joy in the Lord. When we as Christian disciples insist on our own rights, and those rights are violated, there are usually two main consequences: anger and worry. Anger and worry result from thinking that the so-called problem is bigger than God. So what steps can we follow which may help us in our quest for meekness? Firstly, identify the areas where you tend to get angry or worried. Allow your heart to be a workshop of the Holy Spirit and prayerfully think through each area and yield each one of them to Him with no strings attached. These areas may include things like lifestyle, marriage, friendships, reputation, possessions, health, money, time. When these are yielded to God, God takes responsibility for those areas of our lives, and we can live on the basis of Romans 8 verse 28 to 29. Everything works for the good of those who love Him. And we can expect God to test His rights. As each right is yielded, God will probably allow situations to occur which will deny you these rights. These are opportunities to see if the right was really yielded in the first place. Indeed, it may be necessary to once again yield that right to God. And finally, acknowledge that you are indeed God's possession and His responsibility, and be able to thank God in all circumstances. Meekness. How's that for a wow word?